mean, when you're in the human rights world, you're almost by nature looking at the expectation or things that might, flaws in the system, the things that might work. So in that sense, you have to be unshockable. But at the same time, I will say this year has been, in many ways, horribly shocking for women and women's issues, not just in Asia, but around the world. Everything from what happened in Afghanistan with the Taliban takeover and what this has meant in a huge rollback for women's rights, to what's happening in America with the rollback of abortion rights for most parts. And of course, my interest has always been China, and where that has been also cause for dismay is what we see as an increasing, as the population crisis unfolds, then what we see is increasing pressures on women and attempts to sort of curtail back some of the rights they've had in that space. So in that sense, it's almost scary to see how we are in 2022, and some of the rights and freedoms that our earlier generations have won are now being pushed back. Now that's very, very shocking. I'm hopeful because you can't be in the human rights space without being hopeful. We are in the business of trying to institute change in a world of darkness. I'm always encouraged by the human spirit. So, for example, in Afghanistan, it is very dismaying to see a whole generation of women who have enjoyed going to school and have had those rights being forced to have their movements constrained and wear a hijab and not be allowed to go out without, male guardianship, for example. But I am very encouraged by this generation of women who know more and have done more and who are pushing back, and they are both in Afghanistan and outside of Afghanistan, and some of them work for us. And their spirit and their courage really gives me hope and gives me energy to keep going too. I think what we've always tried to show is that, particularly in authoritarian governments, they've always tried to present human rights as some kind of a Western concept, that it's a luxury, it's not a must, and that economic empowerment is more of a human right, and the basic, rice bowl is more important, in that way. And I think what you're starting to see is human rights has to be embedded in a lot of the causes of economic policy, because if you don't, then you have huge problems which will impact rice bowl issues. For example, with the one-child policy, which is a huge infringement on women's rights. Why this has been rolled back, why this has changed, is fundamentally because of the awareness that this 30-year-long policy is basically very detrimental to China's economic development going ahead. It is a rice bowl issue. It's not some esoteric Western concept infringed upon it. It will actually impact China's economic development and health and happiness, not just of women, but of the whole entire population.